Bob, what are some of the ways where two or more people can buy property together?
Well, basically, there are three ways that two or more people could hold real property together. The first type is called tenants in common, and that would probably be used by people who are not related. They just want to be partners in some sort of real estate transaction ownership. And what that means is that if you have two people, each one would own an undivided one half interest in the building. Now, that further means undivided one half. It doesn't mean that you own the first floor, I own the second floor. It means I kind of own a squiggly line that goes through the building, and it's not really definable what I own versus what you own. But together, our two pieces, make one part. And if you wanted to sell your interest in the property, your one half undivided interest, as a tenant in common, you could do that. You could sell your one half to somebody else. And likewise, your partner could do that also. And also, if you happen to pass away, you could will your part of the property to whoever you choose via a deed. Now, the second type of ownership is joint tenants. That's a situation where two people, once again, invest in real estate, but they have made the decision pretty much to stick together for whatever reason. Now, it could be maybe a brother and a sister who don't have any children and feel that they're going into this maybe to live there together in maybe a two-family house, share expenses, and that if anything happened to the other person, it would automatically go to the other person. Now, the main consideration there is you really have to decide that your half of the property will go to your partner if you're the first to pass away, and vice versa. You can't, in a joint tenancy situation, say, I want to give my one half of the property to somebody else. By putting that designation, joint tenants, in, that means it's automatically going to go to the other person with or without a will. And the third type of ownership is tenants by the entirety, and that's a term that's applied to husband and wives and probably now domestic partners. That type of ownership is very similar to joint tenants in that if something happens to one spouse, it'll automatically go to the other spouse. It also has some creditor protections in it so that if one spouse got bollocksed up, it would somehow shield the other spouse from having any negative effects in the short term with regard to ownership of the property. But basically, without that creditor information, tenants by the entirety is the type of tenancy that a husband and wife would have. So basically, you have the three types of tenancies. Tenancy in common, you can do with your half whatever you want. Joint tenants, your half would go to the other person. And tenants by the entirety, generally in a married situation where, once again, your half would go to the other spouse if you passed away.